that, go for it.
Thanks, Max. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're here to talk about the summer at Ely. In the past, we haven't done a virtual event ahead of summer, and we've had a lot of questions, and we're hoping that this would be an opportunity to answer some of those questions so that folks could make an informed decision about whether our program might be the best program for their learner. So we are here, Sophie Doherty and I. I'm Pamela Ely, the owner and director of the Ely Center. And
I am Sophie Doherty, as previously introduced, and I am a speech language pathologist and social coach at the Ely Center.
we are both here to facilitate the summer program. So without further ado, our agenda tonight is to introduce the program, to kind of deep dive into the 3 intensive programs that we offer, which are multiple days and multiple hours per day, and then also talk about our standard program, which continues throughout the year, what we offer there, how to register, and then lastly, to get to an open Q&A. And I will try to get there as soon as I possibly can. So, summer at Ely is meant to be fun. And it's a fun vibe. Kids feel more free in the summer. They have fewer responsibilities, if you will, placed on them, at least academic responsibilities. They might still have to get up for camp, but they are feeling a little bit more, we like to think of them as a little bit more open-minded. And we design a curriculum that sparks creativity and self-exploration, no matter if they're the littles at 4 to 8 years old, or the high schoolers, or those transition age individuals who are beyond high school and forging their way into the world as budding adults. We also, at the same time, are very conscious of our continuing program that includes our very detailed social cognitive content. We meet the students where they're at in an individual fashion, even though they're in a group, thinking about each one as an individual and how they will work together in the group that they're placed in. We embrace diversity, and we have been embracing diversity for many, many years. I think we do it better every year. And we're building self-esteem as a primary goal, and thinking about and hoping that each student leaves every day thinking about what they can do. We have theme-based play for the littles, and we have a more independent, purposeful activity build for our middle school and high school population that really taps into their ability to problem solve, make choices, and inform decisions based on their own needs and wants and goals. The intensives, the reason that we offer our intensives on top of our regular program in the summer is because we've found over the years, and I started intensives back in 2007 or 8, we find that when we have students for a longer period of time, most of our groups are an hour during the school year, but when we expand that to a day, or for the littles, 4 hours in a day over 3, 4, or even 5 days, we have a real shift in the students' ability to embrace the learning and to feel comfortable with the group that they're learning with, and sort of explore their own boundaries in a way that is different from that school year group. In the school year group, we have designated goals and objectives each session, and we do achieve those. But there's something really magical that happens in that intensive program where we're just digging deeper, and those ahas happen in front of our eyes. They don't happen at the dinner table after the kids leave us or the next day at breakfast. We really get to see that opportunity for kids to learn and grow and embrace the social cognitive changes that are happening for them. So we use a client-centered approach and help the students explore and identify shift sets. So going down one path and decide this isn't for me and try another. I love when that happens for one of our learners. We help them connect, build, and apply the skills of self-awareness and self-talk so that they can manage the world around them and reach the goals that they set for themselves and that you as families set together. Concept learning is through self-directed play and natural context activities. And with the intensive, it feels less rushed. We have a curriculum that we follow, so we're rushed, but the kids don't ever feel rushed. And it focuses on embracing that natural diversity and allowing each individual the time that they need to shine. So about our three programs, I'm going to let Sophie talk a little bit about these programs.
So we have, like Pamela said, we have three intensive style programs. This first one is our early learner social intensive camp. So this runs 4 days in a week, 10 to 2. And for this week, we're offering it for the 4 weeks that you see there. So all 1 week in June and then 3 weeks in July. The age range is 4 to 8 years old, so really that early learner age through entering grade 3. We have a limit of participants per week, 8 participants, minimum of 4. And we always try to find that like-minded peer fit within the groups. So that might mean within the group, we sometimes break off into smaller groups. If we think there's a like-minded fit within the big group that we want to foster within the smaller group as well. And that goes for all of the intensives. Tuition is listed here. And then we also include a daily email for report writing. There's a daily email that goes back to you each day. We'll outline what we did. We'll outline anything to be aware of for the next day. And we can always provide a progress report at the end of that week, and that always serves as a good way for you to connect with school before the summer ends and the school year starts, and that can go back to teachers or whoever works with your learner at school so they know how to support them best during the year. We also do, during all of our intensives, we do outings with the littles. It looks more like going to the playground, going to the park, and facilitating those social emotional skills within that outdoor play setting. With the older kids, it might be going mini golfing or going to the zoo. And there's lots of different aspects like money management and planning and prioritizing that goes into that. For the early learner camp, we focus on thematic based learning, hands-on. So each week we have a theme. Might be outer space one week, it might be zoo animals the next week. And we really, really work to develop that situational awareness for interactive play, meaningful play with peers.
And then just lastly, in that early learner program, our focus is on forming a plan and following a plan with the group, literacy elements, an activity or a craft each day, a sensory time, because many of our learners, all of us, require some sense of what kinds of sensory tools help us support us in our learning, developing situational awareness, and then interactive play with peers.
For our executive functioning boot camp, so this is a little bit older than the early learners, but not quite that high school age yet. So this is typically the grades 4 to 8. And we typically run this program at the end of the summer that prepares our learners for that transition back to school. We focus on neurodiversity affirming approaches, of course, including self-exploration. So that might include mindfulness, identifying your learners' strengths. What do they bring to the table? How can they be successful in the school year ahead? Executive functioning development. So that involves those tasks like planning, prioritizing, organization, situational awareness and self-talk, task initiation and completion, impulse control, metacognitive awareness. And then social expectations for homeschool and community. So how can I maintain my peer relationships, my family dynamics? How can I increase my situational awareness? and gain independence. So that's really what we're fostering throughout this program is um, giving our learners a sense of independence with their decision making and as they return to school. We do include a binder, so we call that a visual toolkit. And the visual toolkit includes resources for home. There's lots of visuals in there. And it's organized by social cognitive themes that you can review with your learner as the week goes on, beyond the week. It really reinforces all of the concepts that we're teaching throughout our week-long program. This program runs 9:30 to 3, so it's a little bit of a longer day for the older kiddos. And that is a 4-day week as well. And like the early learner program and the social summit for the high schoolers, we do lots of outing opportunities, giving our learners lots of natural opportunities to practice the skills. And then lastly, we have our social summit. So this is our high schoolers. So 8th grade through high school transition. Um, we have generally a fairly large group. I know Pamela has had lots of large groups in the past. And it's just a really, really fun week for neurodiverse individuals who struggle with social interaction throughout the year to find their people and work on their individual social learning objectives, but also social learning objectives of a group, building their situational awareness, responsive listening, language organization, self-talk, self-advocacy, all of the skills that we hope our older learners to become independent with and be successful with in later high school and beyond as they transition to college as well. We do lots of outings. There's a lot of independent moments for learners during this program to really tap into those skills that they've been building upon and be successful in those moments.
I think the thing that I like, I've done the social summit for the longest. It's the first intensive that I offered. And the thing I like about it most is that though it's a facilitated experience, the learners come in and they've probably all been to camp or had some summer group experience, but this gives them a chance to shine and to create the experience with the group leaders. And so when they come in the first day, I think they're expecting us to tell them what to do. And when they need it, we do. But most of the time, it's a guided experience. And it's really the days are built off of wanting to fulfill the students' interests and make sure that our outings relate to the students' interests. So if we have a group of students who are really into history, we might go to the JFK Museum. Whereas if we have students who are more sportsy, we might do bumper cars and mini golf, and we might do both in a week. But it's really geared toward the interests of each kid. And as we see them open up, because we're looking to them and saying, "Well, what do you think?" It's a really rewarding experience, and they gain so much self-esteem, but also those skills of self-talk and social cognitive success. So it's a fun week, couple of weeks. If you're interested in applying for our summer program and you haven't already done so, you can go to our website at elycenter.com and click right there where it says, click here, sign up for summer 2025 programs. The button will walk you through the sign up. And if you have any specific questions, you can always email us at office@elycenter.com. Kate Owens, our executive assistant, is always available to answer those questions. If you're new to Ely, we will do an intake evaluation where it's a half-an-hour meeting with me, just to make sure that the fit is the right fit for no matter what, if it's a summer weekly group or one of our intensives or both. I always like to meet with the participants and make sure that we're aligned on placement. So very simple to get involved. Just click the button and off we go.
I think
And
it's just really quickly, it's important to know too that we have our ongoing mental health options, which is something that we do year round as well. So I wanted to make sure that we plug that. So that's separate, separate to sign up for that from the summer programming. But just want to make sure that people know that that is also always available whenever needed. So you would also go to elycenter.com and click the apply now button on the top of the homepage to get there. That's
Thanks, Max. I appreciate the nudge. In fact, we've had a shift in our mental health supply, I'll say, and have someone back from maternity leave and someone coming back from a paternity leave. So we do have openings, and that's exciting. I don't know very many spaces right now who are saying that they have openings, but we do have mental health openings, and we like to fill those openings with folks who either themselves have a social cognitive need or a child with social cognitive needs and want some support, or they want that support for their child because it's very specialized. Our mental health providers and we speech therapists work very closely together. So it's a seamless approach to building community for that individual. And the other thing that I'll just say, we also have a provider who's a licensed educational psychologist on staff now, and she can see clients for mental health purposes, but she's also really eager to work with clients to help build understanding of the IEP process or to help write IEP goals and objectives, and to also do some family consulting. So she's another wealth of information that we're just starting to pitch, on our website and through this virtual open house resource. So if you have an interest in either of those programs, don't hesitate, as I said, to reach out, ask questions, and get yourself in here for that first meet and greet. Now I'll open it to questions. What are your questions and how can we help?
And it's pretty open-ended, so just come off of mute if you have anything. If no one has any questions, then we can keep it moving and give you time back. But this is your time to shine for those of you who are able to join us. So please do ask away, or any commentary is welcome.
I had a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And I'm sorry if there's any background noise.
No, you're good.
Is the base the Ely Center in Needham, and like that's where the pickup and drop off is for those of us familiar with the space?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So we work out of this space, and as much as possible, our outings, it's all about transitioning for kids. And so today I ran a group and we transitioned out of this office that I'm in 3 times just to practice leaving and coming back. In the summer, our leaving and coming back happened to be to a park locally or outside. Maybe we have emotional support animals here at the Ely Center. Sometimes we'll go outside and play with the dogs if we have a group of dog-friendly students. But then these intensives are also designed, the back to school program, the executive function boot camp, and the social intensive are also designed to take us off campus. And so we have used a private car service in the past. We've used Uber in the past with an Ely Center adult staff with each of the Uber groups, of course, to help with travel training, but also to get to wherever we're going. And then we would execute, planning a Blue Hills hike and everyone has a role, or planning an outing to, as I said, mini golf or one of the local museums, places of interest to the group that we have that week.
That sounds great. And one more question before I need to hop on my flight. But if we had a question about which cohort would be a better fit for our child, and Pamela, our son has been with the Ely Center. He took a break this year, but he was with the Ely Center for the past couple of years before that. Should we just contact you directly, or just to sort of understand which cohort he would fit into?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would reach out to Kate at office at elycenter.com. Yeah. And then she can direct you so that you're very clear on the sign up and which one, or she can just plug you right in and send you a direct link. But it keeps it as, I'd say the process as smooth as possible to go through the sign up on the website. But if you want to ask any questions ahead of that, feel free.
Yeah, it just isn't clear to me which program he would be best suited to. So before I signed up, I'd want to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
sometimes like if it's been a while since he's been here, I might ask you to come in and do an updated intake just so I can make sure that we're putting him with the most like-minded fit.
Awesome.
And yeah, happy to help. Safe
Have a safe
travels.
flight. Thanks for joining. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Any other questions? We love talking about our program.
Yeah, could you walk through just like an example of what a day for the middle school age kids would look like?
Yeah. So the kids arrive in the morning and we have sort of an arrival time where there's a puzzle set up in a large space. So kids can choose to come in and get to work on a puzzle with one or two of their peers. There's also art supplies out. There might be music playing if we have a group that's particularly musical. Some of our groups really love to have that background noise and play around with, have you heard this Taylor Swift song or do you like the Beatles? But it's just kind of a hangout time, and that's such an important skill for so many of our students who just haven't learned that skill naturally. So we sort of facilitate that for them as they're getting in. We have a morning meeting time where we talk about the day and just go over the plan of the day so everyone feels like they're part of the plan. And we do the same thing at the end of the day where we prep for the next day, where we kind of talk about how today went, but then also thinking ahead, hey, tomorrow we're going to do this Blue Hills hike. Let's just go over, the footwear that's going to need to come in with you. And or if we're going bowling, please wear socks because the bowling alley will not let us have the shoes without the socks. Those kinds of natural context learning that we discuss because our students can struggle with those things. In the morning, we usually have 1 or 2 activity periods. Although this coming summer, we may mix it up a little bit because we've traditionally done our outings after lunch. And that's been great. But we also thought, well, what if we went on an outing at 11 o'clock and came back at 2 and did took a bag lunch with us? It would change up the day a little bit, but that would mean 1 morning activity period and 1 afternoon activity period here at Ely. The activity periods are designed around the topic of the day. There are 4 topics for 4 days, and each topic coincides with a chapter of this toolkit that the students come home with. And the toolkit is filled with visuals, checklists, how-tos for that topic. So for example, it might be the friendship sequence if we're talking about, bonding with people and how, not everyone is your best friend. It takes a while to get to that level of friendship. And to get there, you have to go through sort of stages. And so you talk about sharing space with people first and what that feels like. And we might have examples of that. And then you find that person who maybe you connect with because you both play soccer or you both like Minecraft or you're both artists, whatever it might be. And that's the link that puts you to that second level. And then there's this bridge of friendship that takes you to a more close-knit friendship. And when that happens, you might spend an afternoon at their house or go on a bike trip with them for a day, that sort of thing. So we have a dedicated lesson for each of these. And sometimes it's like, they're on high speed because we have a set to get through in a day, but we get through it in a week. And then we're cycling through each day, whatever topics we introduce on day 1, we're reinforcing on day 2 as we're introducing new topics all around the idea of executive function skills, of initiating, meeting, self-talk, planning, organizing, all of those parts. And throughout the week, the theme is all about how to be your best self based on what your parameters are. So if you're somebody who really learns best standing in the classroom, how do you accomplish that in a classroom where most kids are sitting down? What's the school culture and climate like if kids are able to talk about that? And if they're not, we bring it down to the level and meet them where they're at. But we're trying to help each individual figure out what they're bringing to that classroom setting or that school setting and what skills they have and what skills they could button up a little bit. And then there are choices to make. Not everybody wants to button up every skill. So we talk about, what would be the top 3 maybe that they want to accomplish. And some students are more savvy at talking about that than others. And so again, we're meeting them where they're at and moving them forward. It's a really fun program. And I would say every year that's the program that really gets full first. So if you're interested, get in early for that intake. But the feedback is always exceptional, that by the end of the week, kids are really showing the change based on the learning that happens in those 4 days. They're showing the change at home.
Great, great. And how is the academic portion then kind of incorporated into their day?
Yeah, so it's not academic in that we're not teaching reading, writing, or math, but we're talking about when you're in those spaces throughout a school day, thinking about the differences in those spaces and how we individually might respond to that. Some of us are more math head. Some of us are more interested in the liberal arts variety of learning. And so we talk with kids about how they would apply the skills that, those executive function skills in that setting. And if we have specifics, like if a parent says, and we send out a survey ahead as well, but if a parent says, I'm really particularly interested in having my student learn skills for, even just accepting that math happens in a day, maybe math, a lot of our kids love math, but if I know that's the goal, then we try to instill that for that student and for all learners. And then, we can have a special lens on that. We really do try to individualize as much as possible within the content that we're also teaching.
Gotcha, I see. Well, one last question too. How are they, what's the staffing like?
Yeah, so our summer staffing is exceptional. Sophie and I are both speech and language pathologists. It is unclear yet whether my occupational therapist or another speech and language pathologist or one of our mental health providers would be the third adult in the mix. We have a cap at 12. So that right there, it's, one professional for every 4 learners. If we have 3 of us on board at any given time. On top of that, by the end of August, I have usually 4 very capable graduate student interns who are either graduating or heading into their last semester of grad school with a special interest in social cognitive development. So we've honed the skill of working with the school teams for graduate work in speech pathology in and around Boston, and they send students that interview for this placement, and it's a very competitive situation. We want students who come in with some experience, but also who have a real dedicated interest in social cognitive development. And those grad schools have not disappointed us yet. I've been doing this for 23 years, and we get the best students and really creative, eager to dig in and work with the students. So it's often a 2-to-1, sometimes a 1-to-1 situation at any given hour. Now, there are often students don't need that, and we certainly don't want to give them a 1-to-1 if they don't need it, but it's nice to know that somebody can be prepping the next activity while one person is working with a group, doing something in a different room. So we can divide and conquer really nicely because of the amount of staff we have.
Great, great. Thank you very much. That's helpful.
Pleasure. Any other questions? I think the thing that I'd want anyone to know in just coming to hear about our summer program is that like our school year program, we want to individualize to the learner. It's really important. When I started this practice, I wanted to create a village approach to supporting kids. I worked in a middle school as a speech and language pathologist, and there just was only limited time to get to the social cognitive practice. And so I would push into classrooms and I would see kids in a pull-out setting. But when I started the private practice, it really made a difference because I could talk with parents on a daily basis, and I could do these intensive programs and spend time with kids where I could see that they were grasping a concept or that they weren't, and spend more time. And I could also hone in on the skills that families and kids thought were important versus the skills that the educational system thinks are important. And sometimes they overlap beautifully, but sometimes they just don't. And so really meeting the student where they're at and focusing on the skills that we know are going to be important skills for life for that individual is where I saw the need and wanted to help. And then we added occupational therapy and mental health support. And we have incorporated arts training into our program, and just tried to meet the needs in a variety of ways so that it's not cookie cutter, but it really does make a difference. Learners that leave here, families report that we're making a difference, and that's why I keep going to work every day. I love it.
Sophie, is there anything else, not to put you in the spot, and it's okay if you got nothing, but from running the program and being such a big part of it the past few years, is there anything um, that you want to share that you think would be valuable before we let people go? Sounds like not a lot of questions left here.
I think the one of the things I love so much about these programs, and maybe Pamela touched a tiny bit on it, but when learners, usually older learners, so like that middle high school age, some can be kind of resistant at the start of the week just because it's summertime and, it feels like a very academic setting to come for camp. And always by that third and fourth day, everybody's laughing and enjoying their time and really taking in all of the learning that has been going on. And, they're making connections, they're feeling confident. And some of these kids have a hard time feeling confident in any of their day-to-day situations. So I think that's what I love so much about the summer programming. And even as a clinician, it gives me such a nice time to really connect with the kids as well. You're with a kid, you're with a group, right, every week, but that's 50 minutes, an hour a week. But you're with the intensive programs for, 4 to 6 hours a day for 4 days, in that week. And you really make connections with the kids, and it feels really meaningful. So I think that's what I love so much about the summer at Ely.
Thank you. I've seen it in action, so it's awesome. Well, I'll give people another chance to ask any questions, but if not, then we'll happy to let people get some time back in their evening, enjoy their families. And thank you very much for everybody who's able to make it. We really appreciate it. And thank you for the thoughtful questions that we did get.
Yeah. And if you hang up and you feel like, oh, I wish I had asked this or I'd want to know that, please don't hesitate to reach out. The best way is email at office@elycenter.com. Because as I said, Kate Owens, my executive assistant, she knows a lot of the answers, but if she doesn't, she will quickly get to me to find the answers. And we want to provide the support for our community. That's why we're doing it. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. This was really helpful.